So zoom in and zoom out. This is our object, and shift and middle mouse is pan, or you can pan from here. You can zoom from here. You can look at the camera from here, go back, and you can change the view from isometric to perspective. Okay, so we always work in perspective. It's more realistic. Now, one thing is how to make this cube translucent so you can see through the cube. If you go to options here, you have something called the X-ray mode, and now you can see through the cube. Okay, and then you can control that X-ray mode, how much you want it to be transparent and less transparent. Okay, so you can make that cube transparent that way, or you can turn it off. All right, so now what we need to do is every object in real life will have a little bit of softness to the edge. Now this will depend on how far the object is from the camera. It is really far or it is really insignificant, then you don't have to add geometry. So I'm going to show you one more button here which says statistics. Okay, so here it's going to say that it has 8 vertices and 12 edges, 6 faces. Okay, the more numbers here, the longer it will take for rendering and other things. And if you have hundreds of things in your scene, then it really becomes very difficult to create good renders. So really it is file management is very important, especially if you are working on a bigger scene like the one that you would be working on in your environment for other things. Okay, so most of the environment should be created using images called matte paintings and low poly models. All right, and then only based on the camera you model high quality things. So to add softness to this, we add a modifier called bevel. Okay, and I'll go to object properties and viewport visibility, and I can turn on wireframe so you can see the lines. Okay, so you can see that our let me do this. Delete this one, so we will have something to compare with. I'll go to Shift D, and when you do Shift D, the object moves. So simply right click so it goes back to original place, and now you move it using the axis, so you know exactly how you're moving the object. Better to move it in one specific axis. If you hit the N key on the keyboard, you see the location transformation. So now we have moved it maybe -5. So you're very specific about what you're doing. So you can hit the N key and hide it. Even these can be hidden. If you don't like these things, you can clear the clutter in the scene by turning on and off these things. Okay, so it's important to understand how the navigation works. Okay, there is this snapping button, and then you can snap to various things, increment, vertex, face. So that way, when you move things around, we need to turn this on. So you can snap it at increments, or you can say is there a way to absolute grid spacing? What does this do? -4, -4. Origin also. The other thing I want to talk about is the origin of the object. You can see that the origin of the object right now is in the center. So if you go to 1 on the If you have a numeric pad, then you can go to 1 is side view, 2, 3. So you can see that this is your origin 0, 0. The object is a little below. So if you move it up 1 units, and then this is the dimension of the box. So everything is in meters by default in Blender. So this box is 2 meters by 2 meters. And there is this thing, the cursor, okay? And that's called the origin, or is it called, what is it called? Cursor, 3D cursor. So we can transform I want to move the cursor to the origin, set origin. I can move the cursor. So if you go to snapping and then say vertex, you can snap the cursor to the vertex. And then if you snap it to this vertex, you can go to object, origin to 3D cursor. So now this object will move from that 3D cursor. So now it is at 0, 0. Here it is at the center, here it is at the corner. The cursor again can be snapped somewhere else. So if you rotate this box now, it rotates from that point, but here it is rotating from the center. Okay. The other thing, so now we know that this is edges, and then we will go to modify, and then we'll add bevel and object properties, visibility, wireframe. So you can see those problems. Go to this and then segments. If you say 2, you get 1 line in the middle. You say 3, that creates a more smoother geometry. And this distance can be say 0.05, very less, or 0.005, 0.05, or 0.01. And then if you go and remove this wireframe, so this is the difference in this object and this object. Okay, so this object looks more realistic because of the reflection on the edges. So even though it is very sharp, it is little reflection. So if you look around your house and see sharp edges, they will never be razor sharp like this. They'll be slightly blunt, and then you will get that smoothness. So, but it has made 204 edges. Here there is wait a minute, it is for the entire geometry. Yeah, this is 12. I wish I could see only selected object. It is showing all. So if I delete this one, this has 12 edges, but if I undo it, we have 204 edges. So it adds huge amount of geometry. Okay. So depending on how important that object is, you have to make decision as to how to keep things low poly. So because this is going to be extremely low poly, we will not add any. And then we will go to the material and we'll add image texture and we will add our image. It is here. And then you have to go to the shaded mode to see it. And then you go to UV editing. And here you have to go. If I select this, only 3 faces are selected. So if you have to click on this, and then you can select all the faces. And now we can go to UV cube projection. And then here you go to smooth shaded, go to layout mode, and then now you see that the object is mapped with the box. Now what we will do is we'll go to the shading mode. Okay, so this is our shading network. So you have to understand how this shading network works. So whatever we do here is happening here as well. Okay, so either you can add this texture in this window or you can add it here. It is the same thing. So there's just 2 different ways to look at things. For example, if you see here, subsurface is 0, subsurface is here is 0. Okay, so if I make changes here, the changes are done here also. All right, so this object, now what we will do is it is kind of shiny, so we can reduce the specular. Okay, so it becomes less shiny, and then you can also increase the roughness. So a wood object generally has a polish, but this is like a very rough box, so it might have very less shiny things and more roughness. Okay, so that is one thing. The other thing is creating the grain of the wood. Okay, and the grain of the wood can be created by adding normal map. So you have to click on normal map and then you have to add a bump node to this. Okay, so you have to go to add and search for bump. Then a bump comes, so you click on bump. Now normal connects to normal, and then you can connect the same color to height. And you will see that now you have the roughness of the wood. And then now you can control the strength of that. So you can have little or more. Okay, so now you have a fairly detailed box. Okay, without much geometry to it. Okay, and then you're done now. Basically, this object is ready. You can place it in your scene wherever you want, and it will give the illusion that it is 3D and it has depth. And then it will be far away in the scene, so it will not show a lot of detail. So it will be like far away from the camera. Now we will create the other one. So I will delete this one for ease. And then what we will do is we'll create plane. Okay, so this plane is 2 meters by 2 meters, and the scale and location is see, it creates the object where the cursor is. Okay, so if you go to file, new, general, don't save, and delete this box, the cursor is exactly in the center. So I'll go to add mesh plane, and then if you go to N, now everything is 0, 0, 1, 1, 1, and then it is 2 meters by 2 meters. So we will make this object stand up. So I'll rotate it and then type 90 degrees here. Okay, And then we will use a reference image. So if you go to add image reference. Okay, so find your image. Box. And then we will turn this off. And then you will get the reference image. So the reference image is much bigger. So we have to rotate it first. And this can be rotated 90 degrees. Okay. And then the size has to be 0.4 by 0.4 by 0.4. Okay. We'll move it back so it is there. Okay. So you can, again, like I showed here, you can click on this option and then you can lock it so it cannot be selected. This object now, if I go to 3, I need to see through, so you can go and turn on your X-ray mode. Okay, so now you can see through and then model your object based on what you see here. Okay. So now what I will do is go to edit mode. By the way, you can hit the tab key to go to edit mode also. And then I will add one subdivision and it creates one subdivision here, and then there is options for it. So I will create 2 subdivisions. Okay, and then I will scale these subdivisions so to go to the edge here. Okay, and what is this? I will create one subdivision in this direction, again 2, and again scale it. Okay, so now we got this, and now we will cut this and this. I'll use a cut tool and cut from here to here. Okay, and then you can slide it up and down. Enter. You can click and then you can click, enter. So now what we did is we created this geometry, and we will then go to face mode, select this face, shift select this face, E for extrude, and simply move it inside, and then it is only moving in one axis. So we'll just slide inside just to create the thickness of the wood. Okay, so don't go crazy, just a little bit. Or if you want a little bit more, later on you can select and then simply drag it and then try to make it more if you want. All right, so then you go to object mode, and now that is your object. Now you don't need the X-ray mode, so you can get out of it. Okay, this object is modeled. This object you don't need the empty, so you can click on empty and delete it. Now you have your object. Now you need to texture map it. So you go here and then there's no material. You select the material that you have in image texture, open, find the image where it is saved. Okay, then go to texture mode so you can see that image. And then now it is not mapped properly, so we have to map it. So you go to UV editing, and then you have to go here, select all of this. So you can see how it is not mapped properly. So you go to UV. Now how to project it? There should have been like a planar projection, which we don't have. So we have a smart UV. So let us click on unwrap, for example. If you unwrap it, it becomes like this, which doesn't help us. actually it kind of helps us if I can select this and move it around, then it will do our job, but this is too much work. So I'll select this again and go to UV. Oops, select everyone, UV, smart UV projection, and then it will separate everything. So this becomes a big pain. UV cube projection, again, it is not doing what we want, or actually it is doing what we want, because it has created all the things, and the only thing it has not done right is these things. So this is this side here. So now you can simply select this object. Okay. And then you can turn this snap on and then go to rotate. And now if you rotate it, it will rotate, snap it. So you don't have to manually type 90, just rotate it there. Okay. And you can see that when these grain is not proper here, so all you have to do is simply move it here. Okay. And then this face will get this grain here. So it looks like, so it looks much better here. Okay. So because this is not such an important detail, you don't have to really spend a lot of time, but this one you simply have to rotate and leave it there. That's it, done. Okay, so select this. Rotate it, leave it there. Done. Okay. So understand how texture mapping works. Simply, this is the down one, so I'll simply move it down here. And the snapping is on, so it is snapping things. So real quickly, you can map this. In fact, this is such a small detail that even if you don't do this at all, it is fine. So this is not placing in the right place, so you simply deselect the snapping and snap it in the right place. Okay. So you have to understand a little bit of texture mapping. So now you have this object which has actual depth, but we are not modeling individual panels. Okay. Again, okay, so this is done. Now what we need to do is we need to create all the 6 sides from this one. So what you do is simply copy, Shift D, again right click, it goes back, you move it back, and now you know that it has to be -2 because of the size. Okay, so you just move -2, and then it has to be Shift rotated on the other side. Okay, so you can either turn the snapping on. Okay, and then see it is 115, it is an increment of 5, so we can stop at 180, or you can type 180 here. Okay, then I'll select this, Shift D, right click, I will rotate it until it becomes, why is it not exactly 0? And then it has to be moved. And now it has snapped to exactly the right location. Okay, so now these are all individual panels, so we need them to be connected to each other. So you select all the 3. Okay, all the 3 are selected. You go to Object, Join. Okay, now this has become one object. Okay, even though this has become one object, if you go to Tab, Edit Mode, if you click on the vertex, okay, this is one object, so vertex here. Okay, so if you click on this vertex and move things around, let us turn this off. You can see that all other vertices are moving because it is connected, but if I click here, you can see that it is open. This is not connected. So we need to now merge the vertices. So here we will open the statistics and you can see that there are 78 vertices. So we will select all these and now we need to merge 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'll again select all of these. So we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 8 vertices should be less. So this should become 78. So if you go to mesh, merge, if you say merge at center, everything becomes one dot. So you need merge by distance. And by default distance, 8 vertices have been merged here. So 78 has become 70. So it has done the job. If things are not close enough, so you can then increase this distance and you can see how vertices start merging with each other. But this works fine for us. Okay. So we will go to tab, object mode, and to check always, you can always select the vertex and make sure that everything is connected. Okay, if you move, everything should move properly. Right, so now that this is done, I can simply shift. Now again, look at the origin of this object. This object is not exactly in the middle. So if you want this object exactly into the middle, one, then we can move it -1. And then you can say object, set origin to 3D cursor, and 3D cursor is in the middle. So now the object cursor is in the middle. There is a purpose why I did this. Now I'm going to shift D this object and then again snap on, rotate it. So for some reason this. So we did this and then we have to rotate it in this direction, 90 degrees. Okay, and then now we have a complete box. But we have 2 objects, so we select both the objects, go to object, join. So now we have one object. Okay, you have to make sure here. This is all the things in your scene, okay? So now we just have one object. And again, tab, again, X-ray mode, select everything. We have to go to vertex. And then we have to make sure that these vertices are matching up. See here, there's a gap here. So if I go to mesh, merge by distance, this didn't get merged. Okay, so a very slight increase, 0.12 will merge it. So maybe we can slowly remove 1 0 and see if that does the trick. No, let us remove one more 0. Do the trick. No, let us remove one more 0. Then let us try to let us remove one more 0 and see what happens. No, too many things moved. So undo it. Oh, it was accepted. Mesh merge by distance, point. Point 0.2. Yep, that worked. tab. And now this object is complete. And then if this is going to be somewhere near the camera, you can go and add a bevel. Again, you can go to object display, viewport display, turn the wireframe on so you can see how the, so we need 2 and 0.05, 0.01. Okay. So as per the importance of this object, either you can have 2 or 3, and that is the end of our modeling of these two objects. Object display, you remove the shading. Okay, and then you have a box which is one object, but it has too many faces. So this last step can be an optional step, or you can further see how 1900 becomes, just by one number becomes 3400. So you have to be very careful about how much you add. It does look much better. And again, one more thing I wanted to show is see how these things are not looking very sharp. So you can go to object, shade smooth, and then it becomes smooth, and then it will render smooth. Okay, so this is what I wanted to cover, how to model a low poly object. And again, we have to go to shading, and here again we need to add our, we need to reduce the specularity, increase roughness, and further add more detail to the object with texture. So click on add, bump, normal to normal, color to height, strength, you can control how much visually looks nice. Okay, so you have a nice wooden box with a lot of detail. Okay, I added too much depth actually. it will look different depending on how the light is affecting that, but this is what I want you guys to work on.